Okay, this evening we are at Casey Anderson's home in Woodinville, and this is Bhante Vimalaramsi, and it's March the 30th,
No,
2007. And tonight we're going to talk about Majjhima Nikaya number 19, Dvedhāvitakka Sutta, two kinds of thought.
Okay. Thus have I heard on one occasion the Blessed One was living at Sawati in Jeta's Grove, Anathan Pandika's park. There he addressed the monks thus. Monks, venerable sir, they replied, the Blessed One said this. Monks, before my enlightenment, while I was still only an unenlightened bodhisattva, it occurred to me, suppose that I divide my thoughts into two classes. Then I set on one side thoughts of sensual desire, thoughts of ill will, thoughts of cruelty. And I set on the other side thoughts of renunciation, thoughts of non-ill will, and thoughts of non-cruelty. Non-ill will is loving-kindness. Non-cruelty is compassion. Now, I want to give you a definition of compassion so that you can understand it. Compassion is seeing someone that has pain, allowing them to have their own pain, and love them unconditionally. Love them no matter what. A lot of people have an idea that compassion is trying to take someone else's pain away from them. But I can't take your pain away, you can't take my pain away. It doesn't work. When you allow the space for someone to have their own experience, and love them, that is being compassionate. I used to go and visit a lot of people in hospitals, and people would like to come along with me. Some people would come in and there would be somebody that was suffering a lot. They had cancer, they were dying. And they would immediately become sad because this person had cancer and they were dying. And they started feeling very, very bad, and they were causing a lot of pain for themselves. But when I walk into the room, I walk in with a mind that is open and accepting of whatever condition that person has. And I allow the space for them to have that condition. And then I start radiating loving kindness to that person. And I say things that are light. Say things that will help their mind become uplifted. So they have a lot of pain when I walk in. Before long, their mind starts to get higher. And they start to relax. And this is the relief that they can experience when you practice true compassion. The person that would walk in and they say, oh, you poor dear, I feel so bad for you. I wish there was something I could do to help you. And they make themselves sad, and the other person doesn't benefit at all. You cannot take someone else's pain. Their pain is their pain. But as you allow them to have their own experience of the pain without trying to control it or make it any different than it is, there is space for them to change. And as you radiate loving kindness to them, their mind starts to become more and more uplifted. more and more at ease, more and more relaxed. And you keep smiling inside and giving that smile away. Before long, they start laughing. They start laughing with you. You say something silly and they think, oh, this is great, yeah. And when they laugh, the pain in their body becomes less and less. Now this is a proven fact. There is these things called endorphins that are in your body, and the endorphins are about 10 times stronger than morphine. When you are sad, when there is a lot of pain and you're resisting that pain, the endorphins are stopped from the pineal gland from coming out because of that tightness. As you start to relax and you start to laugh a little bit, that opens up, and then all of a sudden the endorphins come into the body and the painkiller is there naturally. So it's a very good thing to help other people so that they can have a light mind. So the more you can practice your compassion towards them and allow them the space to be the way they are, no matter what their condition is, and loving them unconditionally, that makes the whole room feel alive. Have you ever walked into a room where there's somebody that's depressed and you feel like turning around and walking out? But when you don't allow that feeling to be your feeling, you just say, that feeling can be there and that's fine, but I can be happy and I can still radiate loving kindness. That person that's depressed, all of a sudden their mind starts to become lighter. So this really does work this way, and it works very well. As I abided thus, diligent, ardent, resolute, a thought of sensual desire arose in me. I understood thus. This thought of sensual desire has arisen in me. This leads to my own affliction, to others' affliction, to the affliction of both. It obstructs wisdom, causes difficulty, and leads away from nibbana. When I considered this leads to my own affliction, it subsided in me. When I considered this leads to others' affliction, affliction means pain, it subsided in me. When I considered this leads to the pain of both, it subsided in me. When I considered this obstructs wisdom, causes difficulty, and leads away from nibbana, it subsided in me. Whenever a thought of sensual desire arose in me, I abandoned it, let it be, and eventually it disappeared by itself. As I abided thus diligent, ardent, and resolute, a thought of ill will arose in me, or a thought of cruelty arose in me. I understood thus, this thought of ill will or cruelty has arisen in me. This leads to my own pain, to others' pain, and to the pain of both. It obstructs wisdom, causes difficulty, and leads away from nibbana. When I considered thus, it subsided in me. Whenever a thought of ill will or cruelty arose in me, I abandoned it, let it be, and it faded away by itself. Now we come to a very important statement. Monks. Whatever a monk frequently thinks and ponders upon that will become the inclination of his mind. What you think about often, that's what your mind starts to tend towards. It starts to think about that naturally. This is where our habitual habit of thinking about this or that, it causes us to think about this or that more. So when you start to recognize that your mind is starting to tend towards a desire for something or a dislike of something, whatever it happens to be, as you recognize that, you let it be. And you relax the tightness in your head, in your mind, caused by mind's movement to that. And you relax. Then, after you smile, you come back to your meditation. Come back to wishing somebody happiness. And stay with that. Now, what are we actually doing? We are practicing what the Buddha called right effort. I call it harmonious practice. It's recognizing when your mind is caught up in unwholesome things. Letting go of that unwholesome thing and relaxing. Bringing up a wholesome thing, smiling. And staying with that wholesome thing. So that's right effort. That's what I just suggested for you. Oh, do you want to get them the 6 R's?
Yeah.
I've developed a kind of a system. And this system works with any kind of distraction that comes up in your mind. And it works very well. We call it the 6 R's. You recognize that your mind has been distracted. You release the distraction and relax. Then you re-smile, return to your object of meditation, and repeat. Stay with your object of meditation. That is 6 R's. This is how you meditate. Now, a lot of people will teach you how to meditate, and one of the things that they forget to tell you about is the relaxed stage. The relaxing right after you let go of the distraction. You relax right then. What are you doing? Every time craving arises, it causes tension and tightness to arise in your mind and in your body. That's how you can recognize it. Tightness. So every time you relax, what are you doing? You're letting go of that craving. Okay, what's the second noble truth? The cause of suffering is craving. So you're letting go of the second noble truth every time you relax. And right after that, your mind will feel kind of expanded and become very calm and very peaceful. You don't have any thoughts. You just have this pure kind of awareness. And you bring that back to your object of meditation, the loving-kindness, the feeling of happiness. So you are experiencing the third noble truth. And the way to do that is by practicing the 6 R's. That is the Fourth Noble Truth. So you see, right now you're practicing all the Four Noble Truths right here. As you recognize that your mind has some kind of suffering in it, and then you see the cause of that is the tightness, so you let that suffering be, and you relax. Now you smile. Why do you smile? Because that helps your mind to be uplifted. Now, you smile in a lot of different places. You smile in your mind. You smile in your heart, in your eyes. You smile with your lips, little one, and you smile in your heart. So it's not just smile without feeling. This is smiling with feeling. And then you bring that smile back to your meditation. This helps joy to arise. And when joy arises, your mind is very alert. Your mind is uplifted. And it's very easy to see when it starts to get heavy again. So smiling is a very important part of the meditation. And I ask people to practice smiling all the time when they're on retreat. And when I say you're not smiling, I will make you smile. And that is for a very good reason, because your mind is more alert when you're happy. It's much easier to see everything more clearly when you have happiness in you. So the more you smile, the more happy you become. The more happy you become, the better your mindfulness is. The better your mindfulness is, the less suffering you have. So this is a very important thing. Now, think of this in a different way. Whatever you think and ponder on, that will become the inclination of your mind. If you're thinking and pondering on happy thoughts and wishing somebody well, what's going to happen to your mind? It's going to tend towards that. So as you develop the habit of smiling and being happy, your mind will naturally tend to become more happy all the time. That's what the Buddha was talking about. That's what the Buddha wanted for us. He wanted us to have a happy mind that was in balance. When you have anger, anxiety, sadness, whatever fear, whatever it happens to be, your mind is not in balance at that time. Your mind is out of balance. And you start identifying with all of those thoughts and all of those feelings. You start saying, this is me, I'm sad and I don't like it. Now, we're made up of 5 things. We have a physical body. We have feeling. Feeling is pleasant, painful, neither painful nor pleasant. We have perception. Perception is the mind that names things. When you see this, you say, that's a lamp. That's the part of your mind. The perception is the part of your mind that named that. And that has memory in it too. You have thoughts and you have consciousness. Now, when a feeling arises, our natural tendency is to try to think the feeling and control the feeling with thoughts. But thoughts are one thing, and feelings are something else. They're not the same. As you try to control the feeling with your thoughts, it makes the thoughts bigger. It makes the feeling bigger and more intense. And then you start really trying to think about it and try to stop. I don't want this anymore. I want it to go away. At that time, you're very much taking those thoughts and feelings personally. This is me. This is mine. This is who I am. So how do we overcome this problem? The fastest way you overcome the problem is by laughing. When you laugh, it changes your perspective. Your perspective goes from, I'm sad, I'm angry, I don't like it, to, it's only this sadness, or it's only this anger. It's not mine, I didn't ask it to come up. I didn't say, I haven't been sad for a long time, I might as well be sad now. No, it came up because the conditions were right for it to come up. What you do with what arises in the present moment dictates what happens for the future. If you resist the present moment, if you try to control the present moment, if you try to think your feelings, you can look forward to suffering arising. But you have a choice right at that time. You can see those thoughts, and you can say, well, they're just thoughts, and you let those thoughts be, and you relax. When I say let them be, what I mean is you're not trying to stop the thoughts from coming up. You're allowing the thoughts to be there, but you don't pay attention to them anymore. And you relax the tightness in your head. Relax. Now you see the feeling. And it's a painful feeling. Okay, it's a painful feeling. That's all right. It has to be all right because that's the truth. When a painful feeling arises, it is there. As you allow the space for that painful feeling to be there, and relax the tension and tightness caused by that dislike and wanting it to be different than it is, now the feeling, even though it might be painful, it doesn't distract you anymore. And you relax, and you bring that relaxed mind back to the feeling of loving kindness and making a wish for happiness. Now, the nature of these kind of hindrances is they don't go away right away. So you'll be with your loving kindness for a little while, and all of a sudden your mind is back over to that feeling of sadness or anger, whatever it happened to be. So, as your mind goes back and forth, your job as a meditator is not to figure out why there's sadness or anger, but to see how mind's attention moved from the loving kindness over to the sadness or the anger. How did that happen? So every time your mind gets distracted, you let go of the thoughts and relax. You let the feeling be and relax and come back to your meditation again. But it goes back. How did that happen? As you become more familiar with how mind's attention moves, you start to see more and more clearly that there is a process that is happening. So your mind will go back and forth for a little while. And as it does that, you start to see that there are a lot of little parts, a lot of little things that arise and pass away. Now, when we think of sadness or we think of anger, these are concepts. What is a concept? Well, you stop and you think about an automobile. You say, well, that's the car. Okay, so where is the car? Is it the wheels? Is it the door? Is it the steering wheel? Is it the windscreen? Is it the motor? A car or an automobile is a lot of little parts put together to make up this concept. Now, sadness and anger are the same thing. There's a lot of little things that come together to make up this concept of sadness. As you start to become more familiar with how mind's attention moves, you start to see, as soon as there's a little movement of mind's attention, that there's some tightness that's there. And before that, you start recognizing, oh, there was a feeling that happened before that. Now, this is the way that mind's attention moves when it has a hindrance in it. A feeling arises, quite often it's a painful feeling. Right after the feeling arises, there's tension and tightness. That is the I like it or I don't like it mind, and that's craving. Right after craving, then you start to have all of these thoughts, opinions, ideas, and concepts about why you like or dislike that feeling. And you really start identifying very heavily and taking those thoughts and feelings personally. As you do that, and as you see that, you start to have your old habitual tendencies, your habits of, when this kind of feeling arises, I always act that way. Now, you're going to be caught for a little while. Your mind is going to stay on this distraction, whatever the distraction is. But then you remember, this is part of mindfulness, you remember, I'm supposed to be meditating. So, you've recognized that your mind is distracted, and you release that distraction, you let it be. Now, you relax that tightness caused by the craving, and when you do that, mind is pure. It doesn't have any craving in it anymore. Mind is very alert and bright without thoughts. And you bring that mind back to your object of meditation. Every time you let go of the distraction and relax and come back to your object of meditation, you're purifying your mind, little by little. So your mind will eventually start to stay with the loving-kindness and staying on your object of meditation for a longer period of time. And when it does get distracted, it will be distracted for a shorter period of time. So you start to see, there is a process that's happening here. And you start recognizing this. Now, every time your mind brings up a distraction, We call it a hindrance. Your mind is teaching you some very, very good lessons. It's teaching you that this is where my attachment is. This is where I'm taking all of this stuff personally. And it's also teaching you how to let go of that attachment. As you relax and smile and then come back to your object of meditation. Now, over a period of time, and that means if you're going to come for a retreat, that would be in 1 week you will be very familiar with this. And you will have taught yourself a lot of things. But when that hindrance keeps coming up and you see it, it gets a little bit weaker and a little bit weaker until finally it doesn't come up anymore. When it doesn't come up anymore, you have a sense of relief. Now, all this time you have been teaching yourself how the process of dependent origination actually does work. And you've been teaching yourself how the Four Noble Truths work. So you're getting insights into how this process continually goes on and on and on. So you get a real strong sense of relief. And right after that relief, you feel very happy. You've let go of an attachment. Your joy comes up. The joy will make your mind feel very light. And your body feels very light. And it's a happy feeling. It's an excited feeling. This is really it. This is what I come to meditate for. As that feeling fades away, and it will, nothing is permanent, then you will feel very, very tranquil, very, very peaceful, very comfortable in your mind and your body. You won't have any tension. And you feel like your mind just stays on your meditation object and a feeling of loving kindness and making a wish and staying with that wish. It just stays there naturally. Now what I've just described to you is the first jhana. Jhana is a word that is very much misunderstood. Every time somebody hears the word jhana, or almost every time, they think of absorption concentration, deep, deep, one-pointed kind of concentration. Jhana does not mean concentration. Jhana means a level of understanding. This is one stage of your meditation. When your understanding becomes so good that you can let go of a hindrance and relax and not have it come back, you have taught yourself some very wonderful things. So you get into this first jhana. And this is what I like to call candy for your meditation, because it's real nice and it's sweet. It's really good. But an awful lot of people, when they come and they do a retreat with me, they start talking about, oh, my meditation was really lousy today. My mind was jumping all over the place. And I start asking about what their mind was doing and how you saw that and how long did it take before you came back to your meditation object, things like that. And quite often, after they tell me how bad their meditation practice is, I start telling them how good it is. They had to work, and mind was being very, very active, and that's okay. as long as you see it and you relax and let it be, and come back to your object of meditation. That is good meditation. When somebody says, oh, I got this joy and it was so wonderful and now I know why I'm meditating and this is really great, I get bored. Yeah. It's okay. Continue. Everything's going along okay. He laughs because I've done that to him. But the reason you had that joy and that happiness and that stillness of mind and that wonderfulness is because of all the hard work you did when your mind was distracted. The hard work that you did to let go of that distraction and relax and come back. So, as you start to learn this while you're in retreat, you start developing this idea of what I think and ponder on, that's the inclination of my mind. And you start to realize that your mind feels a little bit more happy than it ever did before. And you have this balance that you didn't really know about before. And you start teaching yourself more and more about the meditation. So it can go either way, actually. If he frequently thinks and ponders upon thoughts of sensual desire, he has abandoned the thought of renunciation to cultivate the thought of sensual desire. And when his mind inclines to thoughts of sensual desire, if he frequently thinks upon thoughts of ill will or cruelty, he has abandoned the thought of non-ill will and non-cruelty to cultivate the thought of ill will and cruelty. And then his mind inclines towards those kind of thoughts. So we have a choice that we can make. And we make it all the time, whether to get involved in this hindrance or not. Now the thing with the hindrance is you become very aware of the hindrance while you're sitting. But that's not the only time the hindrance is going to come up. You have hindrances arise during your daily life. But while you're sitting, as you can see your mind and how it starts to work, it means that when you are living your daily life and sadness or anger or frustration, whatever it happens to be, when that comes up, you'll start recognizing that more quickly. And you'll start letting go of that more easily. Now, I can tell you exactly how depression arises. Depression is something that, one out of 3 people in this country suffer from depression. And a lot of people are taking drugs because of depression. And I can tell you exactly how it works. A painful feeling arises. And then the I don't like it mind arises. And then all of your thoughts and your stories and all of your ideas about why that feeling arose starts to come up. And the more you think about it, the more you get into a habitual tendency. And you keep trying to think the feeling away. And the more you try, that feeling gets bigger and more intense. And then you start going, I don't want to be around anybody. I'm depressed. Leave me alone. And you can be in a state of depression for many days and not really recognize how much you're making yourself suffer. So what we want to do when we're doing the meditation is be able to recognize how the process works. And when you notice how the process works, then you're not going to be caught. You're not going to be knocked off balance so easily. That doesn't mean that you're still not, you're always going to be in a state of equanimity. No. You have your life, and there's going to be some things that are really going to catch you for a period of time. But as you practice looking at how the process works, and you start using the 6 R's not only while you're doing your sitting practice, but doing your daily activities, you're going to start to teach yourself more and more clearly this process of how everything works and how to let go of it. As you go deeper into your practice, you get more and more a sense of balance. And that balance can start to stay with you for longer and longer periods of time. So you don't have the roller coaster ride of your emotions. It starts to turn into waves. And there's some highs and there's some lows, but they're not as bad as they used to be. As you continue doing your meditation, you will get to another place where the balance is much stronger. And it starts to last into your daily activities, maybe until lunchtime or maybe after lunchtime, from your practice in the morning. But you become more and more aware of how this process works. Then you use your 6 R's, everybody around you will start going, you seem to be different. You're more happy than you used to be. What are you doing? How are you doing this? They'll want to know because they see you become more happy. And as you become more happy, you start affecting everyone around you in a more positive way. As you become happy, everybody else becomes happy. As you become more peaceful and more calm, everybody else around you will be more peaceful and calm. That's the way it works. That's why when I would go into a hospital room with a calm mind that has a lot of love in it, everybody in that room would start to raise their consciousness up to the level that I was holding. So the more you can practice doing the 6 R's that's talked about in this pamphlet, during the day and while you're doing your sitting practice, the more balance you have in your life. And the more you help other people around you. Now, I rather insist that everybody smile when they're doing a retreat. And I want you to give your smile away. Give it to as many different people as you can remember to. The more you can remember to smile during the day, the more you help other people smile. And you know how it feels to smile? It feels good. So you're giving that good feeling to other people. And they will give it back, and they will start to give it to other people. that's how you affect the world around you. So the more you smile, the more you laugh, the more uplifted your mind is, the more uplifted everybody around you becomes. And life turns into broken glasses. Life turns it out to be a lot more fun than it ever has before. That's what the Buddha wanted us for us. He said in the Dhammapada, we are the happy ones. We're the happy ones. And that means you've got to smile. And give your smile away. Practice your generosity by giving that smile and those happy thoughts. Give them away as much as you can remember. What you think and ponder on, that's the inclination of your mind. As you have more joy coming up, you're still going to have the problems of life. There's going to be problems that come up. But the more you hold joy in your mind, the smaller that problem will seem. Now, if you take that problem and you start worrying about it, and you try to control that feeling with your thoughts, that problem is going to turn into a huge problem. And you won't see any way around the problem. You'll just see that this is a problem and there's no way I can solve this problem at all. So how do you solve that problem? Stop focusing on that problem and focus on the solution. Smile. Radiate loving kindness. Give that away. And then that huge problem is just a little tiny problem. It's not so big. But our mind, because of our old habitual tendency, our mind likes to take a hold of a problem and say, oh, this is really bad. This is terrible.
My career.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and nobody loves me and nobody's going to help me to solve this problem. Well, you don't need any help. All you have to do is remember. Remember to put loving kindness into a problem. Now, I used to do a lot of handyman kind of things. And I built very fancy houses and things like that. And there were times I truly did not like plumbing because I have a big body and plumbing is always down there in this space that's only this big. So I'd have to do something down there and I couldn't get the thread to be just right so it would go on like it was supposed to, and it was always frustrating. And I hate this stuff and I really don't want to be a plumber and I don't like doing this and there's not enough room and there's not enough light. And then I watch myself grumble about those kind of things for a little while, and then I go, this is dumb. So I start radiating loving kindness, and seeing loving kindness helped me to solve this problem. And then I go in and I go, and it's done. I've done that hundreds of times. Because I focus on the solution after getting caught by the problem. It doesn't matter what the problem is. When you start radiating loving kindness into that, the problem starts to dissolve away. One of the things that happens, everybody wants to have more intuition. They want to be able to tap into that part of the mind that knows how to take care of everything. It gives you the answers. Everybody wants that. But when we're spending our time thinking, worrying about the problem, the intuition mind comes up and we don't even pay attention to it. We just keep on worrying. What am I going to do? Oh, this is terrible. I'm going to have so many problems and this just isn't going to work at all. But then you have to let that go and remember that you need to be focusing on the loving kindness. So you start radiating loving kindness, and you can do it to yourself, you can do it to somebody else, whatever. But when you're having a problem, it's best to do it to yourself. And you can radiate a feeling of a clear, calm, peaceful mind. And then your mind starts to settle down and is not worried so much anymore, and you start letting that go. And then you let go of the problem completely and do something. And then the answer is right there. Oh, all I have to do is this, and that's taken care of. Easy. You need to quiet your mind and relax and not worry about what the solution might be, but start focusing on the loving kindness taking care of this problem. And as soon as you do that, there is no problem. What we think and ponder on, that's the inclination of our mind. So the more times we can think and ponder on happy thoughts, uplifting thoughts, smiling thoughts, joyful thoughts, the more we can focus on that, the less these other problems arise. The Buddha was a pretty smart man to see this and to recognize it. Just as in the last month of the rainy season in the autumn, when the crops thicken, a cowherd who would guard his cows by constantly tapping and poking them on this side and that with a stick to check and curb them. Why is that? Because he sees that he could be flogged, imprisoned, fined, or blamed if he let those cows stray into the crops. So too I saw in unwholesome states danger, degradation, and defilement, and in wholesome states the blessings of renunciation, the aspect of cleansing, having an uplifted mind. As I abided thus diligent, ardent, and resolute, a thought of renunciation arose in me. I understood thus: this thought of renunciation has arisen in me. This does not lead to my own affliction, or to others' affliction, or to the affliction of both. It aids wisdom, does not cause difficulties, and leads to nibbana. If I think and ponder upon this thought, even for a night, even for a day, even for a night and a day, I see nothing to fear from that. But if excessive thinking and pondering, I might tire my body, and when my body is tired, mind becomes strained. And when mind is strained, it is far from collected. So I steadied my mind internally, quieted it, brought it to stillness, and collected it. Why is that? So that my mind should not be strained. See, that's what I was talking about. You let go, you radiate that loving kindness, and let it be and relax. Now you don't have any thoughts. You come back to your object of meditation when you're sitting. You wish somebody happiness while you're doing your daily activities, and then just don't even think and ponder on the problem. Let the problem go. Okay. Monks, whatever a monk frequently thinks and ponders upon, that will become the inclination of his mind. If he frequently thinks and ponders upon thoughts of renunciation, he has abandoned the thought of sensual desire to cultivate the thought of renunciation. And when his mind inclines to thoughts of renunciation, if he frequently thinks and ponders upon thoughts of non-ill will, upon thoughts of non-cruelty, he has abandoned the thought of ill will and cruelty to cultivate the thought of non-ill will and non-cruelty. And when his mind inclines to thought, and then his mind inclines to thoughts of non-ill will and non-cruelty. Just as in the last month of the hot season, when all the crops have been brought inside the villages, a cowherd would guard his cows while staying at the root of a tree or out in the open, since he needs only to be mindful that the cows are there. So too, there was need for me only to be mindful that these states were there. Didn't have to focus on them so much. Tireless energy was aroused in me. Unremitting mindfulness was established. My body was tranquil and untroubled, and my mind collected and unified. Suppose, monks, that a wooded range there was a low-lying marsh near which a large herd of deer lived. Then a man appeared, desiring their ruin, harm and bondage, and he closed off the safe and good path to be traveled joyfully, and he opened up a false path. And he put out a decoy and set up a dummy so that the large herd of deer might later come upon calamity, disaster, and loss. But another man came desiring their good, welfare, and protection. And he reopened the safe and good path that led to their happiness. And he closed off the false path, and he removed the decoy and destroyed the dummy, so that the large herd of deer might later come to growth, increase, and fulfillment. Monks, I have given this simile in order to convey a meaning. This is the meaning. The great low-lying marsh is a term for sensual pleasures. The large herd of deer is a term for beings. The man desiring their ruin, harm, and bondage is a term for Mara, the evil one. The false path is a term for the wrong eightfold path, that is, wrong perspective, wrong imaging, wrong communication, wrong action, wrong livelihood, wrong effort, wrong mindfulness, wrong concentration. The decoy is a term for delight and lust. The dummy is a term for ignorance. The man desiring their good welfare and protection is a term for the Tathagata, accomplished and fully enlightened. The safe and good path to be traveled joyfully is a term for the Noble Eightfold Path. So monks, the safe and good path to be traveled joyfully has been reopened by me, and the wrong path has been closed off. The decoy removed, the dummy destroyed. What should be done for his disciples out of compassion by a teacher who seeks their welfare and has compassion for them, that I have done for you, monks. There are these roots of trees, these empty huts. Meditate, monks. Do not delay, or else you will regret it later. This is our instruction to you. That is what the Blessed One said. The monks were satisfied and delighted in the Blessed One's words. I like that sutta. I think it's real fun. Now, does anybody have any questions?
Sure.
Yes.
So, he's talking, I don't know if I understand this correctly, right? But this is related to the dependent origination.
Yes,
right?
it is.
So each time when I'm pondering upon, even if I'm thinking about good thoughts and happy thoughts, I'm still thinking, creating new being for myself to have this come up more often. And this is tiresome because I'm still having craving there, right?
It's because of overthinking. Like you can have a single thought about something that's an observation, okay? But if you keep thinking that thought over and over and over and over again, you will have a tendency to develop unwholesome thoughts because your mind will get tired of thinking the same thing and then go, oh, and I remember the time, and then oh, I remember that. And now you're 1,000 miles away and you're identifying with your thoughts and feelings. So what he's saying is to let go of even holding on to these thoughts, but watch how the process works and relax into it. That's how you develop your wisdom. And your wisdom is always seeing that process.
If it's an insight, if you've done an insight, by carrying on with it, you dilute the quality of the insight, the purity of the insight. You start thinking about it too much, and then all of a sudden the original insight that you had has been diluted, and you've lost it.
Well, you won't lose it, but you certainly not benefit from it as much. You'll still know that that's the way it was.
Right.
That's the way it worked.
I mean, lost the purity is what it's
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah. So the whole idea of learning how to smile and to let go of the tension and tightness, and then smile and have fun with what you're doing in the present moment. That keeps your mind light. That keeps your mind very alert, and it's much easier to remember to let go of things that start pulling you down. It's real important that we take the time to remember that the Buddha wanted us to be happy. And reflect on that. He really wanted us to be happy the way he was happy. And the way he was happy was by having this balanced mind. Now, he had problems when he was in his last lifetime. There were people that tried to blame him and do all kinds of things to him, but it didn't make his mind upset. He relaxed into it. And all these problems solved themselves without his having to worry about it. One of the things that I was brought up with when I became a Buddhist, and I was told this often, was that when you take care of Dhamma, Dhamma will take care of you. That means as you start seeing, when your mind gets pulled down, and you start smiling into that and letting go of the cause of suffering, craving, as you do that, the Dhamma will start protecting you more and more. What you think and ponder on, that's the inclination of your mind. I really like that statement. Mostly because it really, really works.